bad man.
That's a bad man.
He is a bad, bad man.
You're a bad man. You're a very bad man.
But in the end, you have saved face because you have recognized officially who the baddest man happens to be. Now you go ahead and
Can I get an amen?
Welcome to another installment of the Bad Man Podcast. I'm your first-time host, Ishmael, better known as King of Titans on the boards. I got my man Mark here, better known as, I'm going to try to pronounce it, but you go.
It's Lee BT. It is
All right.
BT.
We're going to be referring to each other by our first names, but just getting that out of the way. We're going to go through some mid-season awards, a little bit of discussion here. We're going to go through Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player, Coach of the Year, and MVP.
We're going through all of them except Sixth Man because I feel like nobody really cares about that one anyway, and it's tough to figure out right now. It's like Isaiah Thomas or Maurice Spates. Anyway, that's our portion on that.
Pretty much. So we're going to go through the other awards. We're going to start off with Rookie of the Year, actually. This one, it looked good heading into the year, with this rookie class and everything. Randall went down. Unfortunately, Parker went down. So now it's kind of a one-man show. Andrew Wiggins looks to be running away with this. I don't know if you have anything to add, but I actually have, after you're done, should be considered.
I think we broke up for a second. Andrew Wiggins is the runaway, and there was a lot of hype leading into this class, and I think it kind of died down. Not this year, I think, in college, because then you saw, Wiggins was one of the weaker, despite his high school hype, he was, I think, considered one of the weaker, potential first round or first pick prospects that we've had I guess not since Anthony Bennett, but over the course of the last 15 years or so, he is not. I don't think he was considered one of the top half of those prospects. I was kind of the doubter with him coming out, but he's really developed into kind of an incredible player. He's got so many weapons at his disposal, and I think especially his defense is already really solid for a rookie. He'll have lapses here and there, but he shows signs of being a really great two-way player. And his post game, I think, is especially kind of astonishing. He is a strong guy, but when you look at his frame, I don't think you would expect him to be able to bully some of the bigger guys in the league the way that he's can so far.
Yeah, I think, Andrew Wiggins averaging 15 points, 4 rebounds, just shooting 43%, which I think is really solid for a rookie, 36% from 3, a guy who wasn't supposed to really have that good of a jump shot coming out of college. I think the knock on him was not being aggressive enough at Kansas. He took over a game, a couple games here and there, but I think the development of Joel Embiid actually kind of overshadowed what Wiggins did at Kansas. I think the biggest thing that locked Wiggins' award up was the fact that he did a lot of this without Ricky Rubio, and he was playing with no true point guard and doing this mostly by himself. Let's keep this in perspective. The Wolves really aren't a good team, but he's been the bright spot. He's been the only reason they've been in these games. So I think he has it locked up. However, I think one player that shouldn't be completely ignored is Nikola Mirotic. I think this is a guy who's lived up to every ounce of the hype that Chicago fans had for him coming over from Europe. This guy's playing crunch time minutes in the NBA's first year. Wiggins has it locked up, but I think Mirotic deserves at least somebody vying for him.
I'm gonna disagree with Mirotic. I think that he came out really strong. I think that he is kind of and it's still early, and you kind of hit a rookie wall. His numbers have been down over the past month or so. But that whole Chicago team is kind of in discontent and all jarbled.
That's true.
So it's not an ideal situation. I'm going to say Nerlens Noel, actually, even if he has scoring, and he's a second-year rookie, kind of, because he was injured his first year. But he's already – I mean, it's kind of incredible how good some of these rookies are defensively. It normally takes a couple of years. Like Marcus Smart is already a pretty tenacious defender on that side of the court. But Nerlens Noel is already kind of one of the better shot blocking and positional big men out there. And I think, going back to Wiggins for a second, I think that one of the main things that hurts some of those guys some of those like post-heavy guards in the college ball is that they do have less space because the three-point line is pushed in. You saw that with Tyreke Evans, who looked like he was going to be a star his rookie year. But that when they get a little bit more space to operate, they can move out there, and they have a little bit more freedom to push guys around. And I think that's probably a big thing that helped him. And being in Minnesota, not LeBron's Pippen like he was kind of spotted to be, really helped his development. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of knock on this rookie class from a lot of people. It did have a lot of hype, but people have to realize it's been a lot of injuries. Jabari Parker hurt, Joel Embiid hurt, Aaron Gordon for the most part hurt. Julius Randle hurt, Noah Vonleh hurt. So, and Dario Saric hasn't even seen him. So those are I believe half of the top 12 picks we haven't even really seen. So still the jury's still out. A lot of people are writing this rookie class off because of a few shaky players like Stauskas and Vonleh here and there, but give them time. I think we'll see a development. But for the most part, I think we agree on Rookie of the Year easily. Andrew Wiggins right now.
There's not really an argument there. We went on a while. It is Wiggins. There's nobody else. Elfrid Payton's also good, but that's all.
Let's see. Defensive Player of the Year. Who do you think? Well, I mean, actually, go ahead. Who do you think is the Defensive Player of the Year so far?
This one's tough because there's not one standout the way that there normally is, or the way this is sort of like the Marc Gasol year, where Marc Gasol's a tremendous defensive player, but it's not like he's the obvious pick the way that Dwight Howard was for those four straight years, or Ben Wallace was, or like a Marcus Camby. And not to say that Marcus Camby was never a great defensive player, but he was a great weak side shot blocker, and he got those numbers. And there's not anyone really like that today. I will say you probably have to give it to Golden State just because they have the best defense in the league, and the best defensive player on that team is Draymond Green. And he'd be a worthy pick. You'd also go Tim Duncan, kind of the Lifetime Achievement Award, insane that he's probably, set aside Bill Russell, who's the second greatest defensive player of all time?
As far as consistency goes?
As far as legacy goes.
Oof. It's hard to name. I guess if you give me more time, I could maybe think of someone, but Duncan is certainly up there.
I think I'm going to make the argument that it's Duncan and that he's never gotten the Defensive Player of the Year award. I think it might be, when there's not a clear-cut kind of guy.
Yeah.
Duncan, that'd probably be a decent pick for me.
Mm-hmm. And the one argument I'm going to say against Duncan is that, granted, he didn't have him for most of the season, which I guess this could kind of combine, is he has Kawhi Leonard. He didn't have him for most of the season, so I guess that kind of negates that, though. The Spurs have still always been the Spurs. They've always been a team-oriented, offensively and defensively, just been team-oriented. I guess that also could be a staple of Duncan. I'm kind of arguing with myself here, but I guess I'm trying to argue my guy into the conversation a little bit, which to me is John Wall, because Washington has a top 10 defense right now. I believe they're 9th in points allowed. And you look at that lineup, who else is a defender on the team? Bradley Beal, no way. Paul Pierce, no way. Nene, no. Gortat, probably the anchor, but defensively, he's probably the best defensive point guard in the NBA right now, John Wall. I gotta say he's a big reason why they're a top 10 defense and why they have anybody who can guard the premier perimeter talent in the NBA. I'm going with John Wall just because of what he provides and the lack of really help he has on Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you kind of. I'm not saying you in particular. I'm saying that you can kind of get into making comparisons and when they're maybe not there, or saying this guy's just like how many times has Bill Simmons called a player Scottie Pippen, or how many times has Wiggins gotten to Scottie Pippen, or has KJ McDaniels gotten to Scottie Pippen? It's insane. Let players be who they are. With that being said, John Wall is like a new age Gary Payton from what I can see. I mean, he's got he's maybe a better passer. He's about as close to what we're going to see or what we've seen since him. I mean, he's a really incredible talent, and he's not a guy that I would have thought of, John Wall, personally. So that's it's good input. That's high five on that one.
So let's see, I got Wall. So who would you, Duncan or Green for you?
I'm gonna go. I'll go Green. I'll go.
Okay.
No, I'll go Duncan.
Okay, Duncan. Final.
It's a tough one.
All right. Let's see. For most improved player, this one there's a lot of discussion on just because there's been so many. Actually, I don't know because. I mean, the obvious choice to a lot of people would be Jimmy Butler, the Paul George, I guess, type of season, where some guy goes from, this guy's potential to this guy's almost or becoming a superstar. Some other names I heard thrown out there, Rudy Gobert, but I'm not really a fan of the rookie's second season winning just because they're supposed to develop. But who's somebody that you kind of see?
Well, I mean, Rudy Gobert is a guy who has tremendous potential. I wouldn't put him in this class just because I think he's going to take a few years to develop. He could turn into a top tier guy. I mean, there's no he could be a top 20 or so guy.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a little bit more development. Jimmy Butler is kind of the obvious choice, like you said, because he did kind of go from good to MVP caliber. Mm-hmm. And he plays on both ends. But then again, this last month, I mean, we're talking about mid-season awards. If we had done this at the quarter point, it would have been him in a runaway. But the Bulls have, I mean, it's like a totally different team now.
True.
And his numbers have gone down, and his effort on the defensive end has also dwindled. So I'm going to say at the midseason, I'm not banking on this continuing because how could it? Because the numbers are impossible. Mm-hmm. But I'm siding for his sanity, Mr. Whiteside, who butchered the first game that I went to this season was Miami LAC, and Hassan destroyed us. I just kept having to check, like, I didn't even know he was in the league at that point. He murdered us, and he's just been like a 20-20 machine. Where's this coming from? It's like a twist in a movie. Like Jimmy Butler is The Sixth Sense, where it's like the natural progression, and then it's like, he sees dead people at the end of the movie, and okay, so that makes sense because you see the signs. And then Hassan Whiteside, if this was written, that would be like The Village, where it's just out of nowhere and it doesn't make sense, and it's like this was,
it just ends right there. It just ends like that's it. That's the end. It just happens now.
It feels cheesy. If this were a movie, it would be like, come on.
Yeah.
Put some thought into this.
I tell you there. I remember when Hassan Whiteside was drafted it was with Cousins actually, and it was supposed to be like the most unstable front court in NBA history.
Hassan turned out to be.
Hassan Whiteside ended up out of the league, comes in with Miami. First of all, I got to figure out like I wonder if LeBron's thinking something like, really, like we couldn't.
I know. And in Cleveland too, how badly.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that would have been fantastic. But Hassan Whiteside's certainly up there, out of the league, then comes back and is all of a sudden a defensive force, double-double machine. When it comes to improvement, though, I think I have a hard time losing one name, Klay Thompson, because that's a guy who they destroyed LeCobb and destroyed the Golden State front office for saying, no, we're going to stick with Klay Thompson and not trade him for Kevin Love. I was one of those guys. I wanted them to get Love. That would have been fantastic.
I can get some prep for that.
And you look at a guy who's just taken a leap from, okay, this guy's a good 15, 18-point scorer, to this guy could be a 20 to 25-point scorer if he was on any other team. And granted, his minutes have gone down. His points have gone up. His shooting's gone up. He's gone from 44 to 47%, 41 to 45. If you told me last year that he's shooting 41%, that he's going to improve his three-point shooting, 3 percentage points, 3 percentage points, I couldn't fathom that. Everything's gone up for this guy. I don't know what Steve Kerr did to him or what happened with him, but he's made everyone eat those words about, yeah, Kevin Love, no, we're good. We got me, we got Steph, we're going to roll. I think he embodies the idea of an improved player, him and Butler, in my opinion.
To touch on Klay, he's one of those kind of natural progression guys, and I've always been super high on him since he was in the draft. I always loved him. I think he still gets underlooked because I think he's the better player between Jimmy Butler. I think he might be the second best shooting guard in the league. It's tough to wade, but still playing the way that he does. But I think Klay is a little bit underlooked, playing hopefully less so after that 37-point post. But I still, it's not as insane as what Hassan, and even with Jimmy Butler, he was a great two-way player, but I didn't see the potential for offense that he's shown and kind of lived up to this year in him that I had already seen in Klay. So even Jimmy Butler is a little bit more surprising to me, which is why I'm going to stick to those two over Klay. All
right. So we got next is Coach of the Year, which I think one coach has obviously set himself from the others, Mike Budenholzer from the Atlanta Hawks. But I think even if you want to have an argument, you can really only throw Steve Kerr in there with him. But again, you could argue that Steve Kerr walked into a situation where everybody was like, look, if they have an average offensive coach, they can be amazing. But granted, Steve Kerr's done that and more. But Budenholzer's taken a roster who, granted, I think they were the 3rd seed last year when Horford was healthy. But again, no real superstars, quote-unquote superstars. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players are in double figures right now, averaging double figures. And he's, out of all the great coaches that have had him, Sloan, Thibodeau, he's gotten the best production we've ever seen out of Kyle Korver, pretty much basing the entire offense around him and Teague. Horford's fantastic. I think it's Budenholzer by a landslide.
I would agree with that. And let me also say I am so appreciative of your saying his name before I did, because I was going to have to find a way to dance around my not knowing how to pronounce it until you kind of came out. So I'm glad that I didn't have to say, so
it's not about the pronunciation. It's just about having confidence in whatever pronunciation you use.
The gusto. I don't know. So Budenholzer, or Budenholzer as he's pronounced in my mind. He's the runaway for me. I know that people argue Kerr, but especially after the Hawks just beat the Warriors, and I know that that's a lame way to look at it, is like, that they just play. I still think with the pieces that he has, and really, like, you look at, unless you're using some crazy hindsight type thing, there's no one in the league who would have suspected that the Hawks would have been anywhere close to where they are now.
Exactly.
And really, you stick the pieces in. They could be a Spurs-like team, and they have that kind of a defense. And then it's insane what he's been able to accomplish so far. And I've got some criticism for maybe crowning him too early. I think that he's the second best coach in the league, over Rick Carlisle, who typically mans that spot. and that might be over eager of me, but I couldn't imagine anyone else doing what because he really doesn't have a superstar on that squad.
Exactly.
And I do. Horford's close, but I still probably would call him maybe a top 20, like a fringe top 20 guy at best. So,
yeah.
Although Steve Kerr's been magnificent too. So
Steve Kerr, I think, surprised a lot of people with how good he's been. Exactly. He's gotten the best out of a great Warriors team already, but I gotta. Reassure our own pick because you look at, offensively, I think they're sixth right now, 103 points per game. I think they're shooting 47% as a team. We look at defensively, they're number 3 right now. Who knows if that'll keep up, but I think they're tied or just behind Charlotte for number 3 in terms of points allowed per game. And again, you look at that roster, it's like who in that starting lineup is a great defender? DeMar Carroll's been a good defender, solid, but Teague's okay. Horford's a decent hanker, but Millsap's not a good defender. Korver tries, but you can only do so. I think he gets a worse reputation than he is, but he's not a premier defender at all. Even off the bench, Schroeder's a quick guy. Parawantic isn't really defending anybody. Thabo is obviously a good defender, but a number 3 defense with those type of players, I think it's unprecedented. One thing I will say is watch out for Atlanta in the free agent market. I know it's not a big time hotbed, but somebody's going to want to play for Budenholzer. I really feel it. Whether it's a 2-guard, whether it's another forward, I don't know, but somebody's going to want to play for this guy. And I think they could be some players in the free agent market this summer.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah, they've been mediocre so long. It's totally new situation for them.
Exactly. All right, so the final award, ironically, is going to be probably the least debated because MVP, Steph Curry, easily the best team in the NBA right now, or arguably the best team in the NBA, second at least. Absolute stud of a season. There really isn't a more fun player to watch, I would say, right now in the NBA. You can argue Anthony Davis, but he's plays for the Pelicans, and
you can argue Josh Smith too.
Depending on your definition of fun, actually, I will argue Josh Smith, just because when it's a 1-on-4 for Frostberg, he's the only player that will jack a 3. So
it's a need to watch. Yes,
exactly. So Stephen Curry probably second behind Josh Smith in terms of fun, but 48% shooting right now. He's 23. That's the thing about this Warriors team. Everybody's minutes have gone down, and their points and production have gone up, and it's been ridiculous. It's finally cool to see somebody know how to use him off the ball, which Mark Jackson had no clue how to do because he was a shooting guard at Davidson, and he played off the ball most of the time at Davidson. So it's really cool to see Kerr get him involved in some picks and some off-ball screens and pin downs, and he's just flourished. I don't have another Harden, yeah, sure, but I don't know. The Rockets are a good team, and they were great without Dwight Howard because of Harden. But I think it's just a testament to what Curry's doing this season that, to me, he's in second place Harden's in second place behind Curry.
Yeah, and so you started this off saying the most important award would have sort of the least debate, just because. It does seem pretty open and shut. Steph is, but I like to argue so. Just for the sake of that, let's say you replace Steph Curry with an average NBA point guard.
Okay.
And you replace the Rockets with an average NBA shooting guard.
So let's go specific player. Let's say you replace James Harden with Gerald Henderson, and then you replace. Obviously not the same style, but the level, the mean of the production. And then Curry would say Augustine, I guess, maybe? Something along those lines?
Augustine, okay. The point being, Warriors roster is really a thing of beauty. And, it's kind of unbelievable. You look at the bench and they've got David, David Lee's been injured, but they really have no use for him if he was there. And he's a really productive, really good player.
That's true.
Your bench is unbelievable, and their starting five is, I think, by kind of a wide margin, the most talented in the league. And then you just look at, I mean, like, what is the point guard supposed to do? They're supposed to be able to dish and shoot. Shooting guards are supposed to be able to shoot and defend. Threes are kind of all over. Fours. I mean, so every kind of positional requirement, one of their players embodies. So Andrew Bogut can score in the post, and he's a great anchor. And it's like, if you were to just take the ideal guy for what a position's supposed to be in today's league, they have that covered, which is awesome. I mean, because we were getting, I thought with the creation of the Heat that we were going to start to see more of just sticking superstars together and hoping something happens. And it seems like maybe that's not the most effective means of producing championship level.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing that.
I think the Lakers kind of showed that model in its worst form. I think the Cavs kind of showed a little bit too much of the expectation angle of it. The Heat slow start, I remember when the big three got together, obviously was a negative sign of that. But even with Howard, it's kind of weird that the Rockets haven't been as good with Howard than on the bench. So I kind of agree that maybe that superstar model isn't working because of teams like the Warriors, the Hawks, the top teams, and even the Wizards who are up there in the East. Probably not up there. Portland's a good example as well. Just developing. Maybe that is just the model that we've all thought worked. Maybe it does work. Who knows? But are you going to go with Harden or are you going to go with Curry?
I'm going to go with Curry.
Okay.
Let me name off one more person that Let me name off two more people. I know we're going to wrap this up soon. Don't worry. But I'm going to say, okay, so other people who could potentially take the award. I mean, right now it's Curry, without a doubt. Guys who could play themselves in a position to win are, I think, a guy. The best player in the league this year has been Anthony Davis. I don't think he has a shot at the award.
I will say, if the Pelicans make the playoffs, Anthony Davis should be in that conversation without a doubt.
If they get like more than an 8 seed, maybe. I don't see it happening. Maybe though, like we still got 30 some games to go.
Yeah.
So who knows? The other guy, I think that if the Cavaliers rattle off a 20-win type thing, and I think they're more than capable of doing that. If they shoot to maybe the 2nd seed because they've seen so much adversity to start, I think that LeBron's still in the conversation because pound for pound, he's still probably the best in the league.
Yeah.
And you have that narrative where it's not like they came out and dominated from the start, so it's not like, oh, he had a great team, what do you expect? They had some serious problems, and then if you were to carry them to a top-tier record or to the point where they're considered the best team in the league, definitely in the conversation at that point. Not now, though, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, if he gets up there, if he doesn't get up there, I think he's going to suffer from the continuing Michael Jordan syndrome that we've seen, where it's like, it's time to give it to someone else.
Yeah.
But right now, Davis, I do agree, is a name to watch out for. If he gets up there past that 8 seed, I think he's 2.5 games out right now of that. Cleveland, I believe, is 3 games out of the 2, which is shocking considering how bad they were to start the season.
Yeah.
Half a game separates the East number 3 from the number 5, so just keep that in mind on how bad the East has been. Anyway, that wraps up this episode. Mid-season awards. My name's Ishmael. For Mark, keep you guys tuned after the All-Star break. We'll see if we get another episode up after that. Kind of, I guess, getting some latter half of the season storylines and discussion points going whenever we get that going. So, anyway, for Mark, I'm signing off, man.
All right, take care.
2